Welcome to Worldview Matters, discussing controversial issues, discerning current events, defending biblical Christianity. No topic off limits. And now, here's your host, David Fiorazzo.
Hey friends, you're in for a treat today. Thank you for tuning in, watching, listening, and sharing. Pastor Brandon Holthaus is back with us, and you can get info on him at his church, which is rockharborchurch.net, rockharborchurch.net. Also, tipofthespearministry.com, tipofthespearministry.com. You can find him on YouTube. He does a lot of great videos, a lot of great interviews, and we'll bring him in right now. We don't want to waste any time. We want to hear about his Israel trip and some eye-opening things. Good to see you, brother. Thanks for your time again.
Hey, David, good to be with you again, man. Always enjoy my time with you.
Yeah, praise God. We hear you have a conference coming up at your church in early October. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's called Reawakening or Awakening the Church in Times of Apostasy, and we're going to have it on Saturday, October 4th here at Rock Harbor in Bakersfield. And we're going to have a great cast of speakers, Steve Dace, Carl Tykrib. We're going to bring in Pastor Tom Hughes. We're going to be bringing in Alex Newman, and then myself. We're going to be speaking. And we're trying to re-engage or awaken the church back into being salt and light. So many issues that are going on. The church is just checked out, and they're not involved, and we're losing our culture, David. And I'm afraid if we continue down this path, we're going to lose the entire West to paganism, neo-paganism. And so I'm sure you're very much aware of it, and your audience is aware of it, about the disengagement of the church. So we're trying to reinvigorate it. Thank
you, brother. We are kindred spirits, I swear. Over on the church Facebook page, you've got a link to it. Someone posted that, and it leads to a Rumble posting. And now, will it be live streamed as well?
Yeah, we're going to be live streamed. Okay. Obviously, people can come in person, but live stream is going to be available for folks, and They can pay a minimum fee. I don't know what the fee is on that yet, but it'll be there, and they can register and hopefully be blessed and be encouraged, because a lot of people are discouraged, David, because they see their church not in the fight. They want to be in the fight against this neo-paganism that we're seeing. And they're leaderless. I was just in Sacramento at the where the throne of Satan is in Sacramento, and we were trying to protest AB 495 about parental rights and whatnot. And obviously there was a lot of grassroots Christians there, but it was a handful of pastoral leaders, and that's it. Yeah. And we're like, where is all the pastors? So we're just trying to reinvigorate this and say, hey guys, America's at the crossroads. The West is at the crossroads. If we don't re-engage and be the salt and light God's told us to do, we're going to lose it. Yeah. I don't know about you, David. I don't want to live in a neo-pagan society where they tell me a man could have a baby. I don't want to live like that.
Well, we're already there, but actually not living at it as a whole society. But yeah, I know what you mean. And we're not surprised. Yeah. I don't think anybody in this audience or your audience at Tip of the Spear Ministry is surprised that there weren't that many churchmen, men of God, pastors at an event like that at the Capitol in California there. But I want to mention, before we dive into our next topic, by the way, we're going to talk more about that. We're doing another show with Pastor Brandon. But friends, if you want to check out David Bowen's podcast with us. We just did one with him a couple days ago. What I learned on the ground with the IDF in Israel. And I'm telling you this for a reason. Go to worldviewmatters.tv and type in David Bowen, Bowen. Pastor Brandon, why am I mentioning David Bowen on a podcast with you?
Yeah,
because go ahead.
Yeah. David's a great friend of mine. I got to know him fairly well, and he's one of the other pro-Israel pastors like myself. And as you know, I think we've talked about this in the past. We are very pro-Israel, and we have boots on the ground there in Israel. We have an office there. We have a place where we stay, a permanent place. And we are taking teams constantly, almost on a monthly basis now since October 7th, 2023, of supplying the IDF and supplying the families of the IDF with their needs and providing mental health like PTSD stuff, training, and even family counseling for what's going on with the IDF reserves. And we've been doing that at a steady pace. And what we're trying to do is build a coalition of pastors that are really pro-Israel, not just saying they're pro-Israel in name only, but actually willing to put some skin in the game and help us protect the IDF with buying drones, knee pads, helmets, bulletproof vests, helping their families out because they haven't worked. And so David was one of the pastors we brought on this last trip, and we brought other pastors as well from the different parts of the country to get us to partner with us, because there's an enormous need over there. There's about 350,000 reservists that don't have all the equipment. And that's shocking, but this is what we have discovered. So we have a pipeline over there that we do factory direct. If they need knee pads, helmets, whatever, drones is a big thing, thermal imaging, a night vision, those types of things are lifesavers, especially the drones. So what we do is we take these pastors over there and we show them what we do, so there's a buy-in, so they understand where their money is going, and if they solicit donations, this is how we do it. And we take them around, they go to the units, they see the units that we're supporting, they meet the soldiers, and they get a face with a name, that here's Unit 66 who we support. We go in there, give them the supplies, and they're right on the ground seeing that. And so it is a unique ministry. It's an open door, and we're trying to build a coalition of more and more pastors. And if there's pastors out there that can contact us that are interested in that, and we'll bring them on our trips and show them this is what we do. So we have a permanent location there now. We are firmly set to help Israel.
That's awesome. I love the fact that I don't want our audience to miss that you said you have an office there. When you told me before we got on the podcast that some Christian ministries have pulled out because it's too dangerous. Brother, I commend you for what you're doing, and I want you to respond to that in a minute, but I want to make sure people know that you can tell your pastor about Brandon and his church and what they're doing. And how will they get a hold of you, Brandon? Through your church or through Tip of the Spear? How?
Yeah, if you just, guys, if you'll go to rockharborchurch.net and go on our contact page, just contact us. Say, hey, I saw Brandon's podcast on David Ferrazzo's show. I'm a pastor. I'm interested in your Israeli trips. Just go to our website there, and we will get back to you. And my liaison to Israel, who is almost there on a permanent basis, will get in contact with you, and we will arrange a trip for you to get over there. And that way you can see what we're doing and be able to partner with us. And we're starting to partner with other bigger ministries. Olivier Melnick is partnering with us. Jan Markell is partnering with us. Awesome. And Olive Tree Ministries. And so we're trying to build this coalition of helping the Israelites over there.
The usual suspects, the remnant of true God-fearing, Bible-believing, Israel-supporting men and women of God. But we want more. We need more, friends. And that's why it's very important that you understand this. If your pastor, he needs to hear about this and have this opportunity presented to him, but hopefully he wants to go and be a part of this coalition. You mentioned, Brandon, that you help the families of the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces. How do you tell us a little bit more about that, helping the families?
Yeah, so what's happening is these guys have been at war for a long period of time. This has been the longest war they have ever been in, and it has stretched them thin economically. So these guys that are in the reservists, look, they have normal jobs. And the average Israeli, I think, they have to give 30 days every two years, something like that. It's a civilian military. This is what a lot of people don't understand. Because it's a civilian military, you have this big, large number of reservists. Well, they serve their time, but now they have been called in almost on a permanent basis. So some of these guys have been serving 6 months or whatever, and they haven't been home. And these are guys who had regular jobs. Well, they haven't been at their jobs, so they haven't been working. So what's happening is their families are going into dire straits. And so we come alongside of them to help them financially as well. And we work through other organizations to get them the funding that they need to sustain and just pay their bills, David. And then the second thing we help them out with is obviously the mental aspects of what's going on. I don't even want to call it PTSD. It's not PTSD. It's current stress disorder.
Yes.
And here's what's happening. A lot of the soldiers are coming back, and they've seen really the grotesqueness of Hamas and what Hamas does, or Hezbollah, and they have this 1,000-yard stare. Well, they come home on leave, and their wives are like, I don't want to be married to this. And so what ends up happening, they're having a high rates of divorce among their IDF because of this. So the families are fracturing as well. So part of our help is to help them in the marriage, in PTSD, and helping them mentally through all of this.
Wow. That just practical stuff that people can pray about, pray for, and get on board with through your church. And by the way, I know David mentioned something. He just put a donate on his website. How, if people wanted to donate through your through Rock Harbor Church to the IDF or their families, how would they do that?
Yeah, just go to our giving tab on Rock Harbor Church website. Pull down the giving tab, and you'll see a tab called Bless Israel, and that will go to the IDF. And then you can go to another tab, and it'll say IDF families, and you pull that down. You can help directly to the IDF families. And so those are the two areas you can donate to, and that will go right to them for those needs. Okay,
awesome. Thank you. So, Brandon, this is kind of taking a little different direction. I want to talk about war tactics. David mentioned those several times. This is not a war. This is terrorism. Israel's responding to a terrorist attack. But anyway, don't want to mince words here. But I read about in the news, what we see in the news, what we see in America. We're not getting the full story, obviously, in the West because of our media. Yeah. And that's for a whole nother, maybe we'll talk about that in the next show. But Israel, when they do send out these leaflets or these warnings to the people, because they don't want to kill civilians, this is astounding to me because they still have a value for life. They want to protect innocent lives, and they want to kill the terrorists and the leaders. I don't know if you can respond to this. Yes, you can. I get to the point where I get upset and maybe, righteously angry and say, you know what? Stop. Just go in and do what you have to. Stop just with the leaflets. But I guess to save innocent lives, I'm kind of mixed. I have mixed emotions about that. Who does that? Who does that, right? You're in, well, for all practical purposes, they are in war, and they're trying to warn, for example, people of Gaza to get out. We want to kill the bad guys. If you're innocent, we don't want to kill civilians. Just your thoughts on that. The media is not going to give you credit if you drop the leaflets, is what I'm saying. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, you're making a good point, because what we see with the IDF, and again, being on the ground there, they're the most moral and the most integrous military I've ever seen. We're not only dropping leaflets, making phone calls, and firing warning shots, even that we're going to hit this building, and they'll do a warning shot even to wake people up to get out of there. But here's the problem, David. The so-called civilians, many of them will not leave. They are determined to stay where they're at, even though the IDF warns them. And here's the other factor that the media is not going to tell you, and this is what the reports from our IDF soldiers tell us. They go in there. They have already warned the civilians to get out of there. The civilians are still there, and you know what the civilians do? They pick up guns and start firing on the IDF. And so this myth that there is a civilian population that's separate from Hamas, that's not what our IDF soldiers tell us. When you go into civilian homes and there's RPGs and there's weapons and there's all this anti-Israel propaganda, and when you go in there and they start shooting at you, all of a sudden that civilian has become a military combatant. And that's what is causing a problem. The second thing that's causing a problem is it's not only terrorism, but this is urban warfare. And according to military experts, urban warfare is the most difficult thing to ever fight, because you're dealing with buildings, and the problem is they've got these sophisticated tunnels. And here's the thing. They are using children. The children pop up. They spy out where the IDF, and they know the IDF will not fire on the children. They know it. Wow. But they're using the children as spies, and so the child looks, finds out where the IDF, goes back into the tunnel and tells Hamas where they're at. And so it puts the way that Israel is fighting it, it puts their IDF in the firing lines of getting killed. And that's what tends to happen, trying to fight such a moral war. And you're right. If this was us, we'd have carpet bombed the whole thing over 5 times, and it would have been done.
Yeah.
But with Israel, all eyes are on Israel, and everyone hates Israel, so they have to fight with one hand tied behind their back. And it's very disappointing.
Tell us 2 things. David reported that there were a percentage of, and I want to put civilians in air quotes, because I've heard these stories from people on the ground saying a lot of the civilians are just as radical or just as hateful of the Jews, but that's for another podcast. Tell us about the tunnels, Brandon. They built these tunnels? They had their opportunity to build a better society or to help the community. Instead, they built terror tunnels and got equipment. Tell us more about that.
Well, here's the thing. Under Obama and Hillary Clinton, the Palestinians were getting somewhere in the neighborhood of $450 million per year, plus anything else they wanted from the United States, and not just the United States, but from the UN, all kinds of other organizations. So what happened? They, instead of building infrastructure, and by the way, the infrastructure from the Israelis were already there in 2005 when they handed the Gaza over. What ended up happening is they took the infrastructure and for like the water pipes, they took the pipes and started making bombs with them. So they don't have any water because they took all the water pipes out. Then they took this money, and a lot of that money piled up with the elites over there in Hamas, and they took all the money, and they were living like fat cats. Everyone's living poor, and they basically turned Gaza into a military operation base rather than one of the most fertile and unbelievable place you could possibly live. Because when Israel was there, it was a kind of a Garden of Eden, so to speak, man. They had nurseries there, and you could grow anything there. The climate is so mild. It's a beautiful place when Israel had it. But then they just turned it into a bomb factory. Jeez. And it became a staging place for Iran and everyone else that wants to wipe out Israel. So all that money then went into the tunnel systems, and it's very sophisticated. The tunnels go all the way into Egypt, and that's how a lot of the bombs were coming in through that corridor in Egypt. And we're talking, David, layers of tunnels deep down where you can almost drive trucks. That's how deep these things are, and very sophisticated and branched out. So like a modern day city, and they had been doing this since 2005. Wow. And so this is where all the money was going. And people say, they try to give an easy explanation. Well, why don't we just flood the tunnels with water, with seawater? Well, the problem is you have hostages in there. That's what's preventing Israel from flooding them like you would do a gopher hole, because you've got hostages in there, and they don't want to do that. And they're using the one element of Israel against them, which Israel preserves life. It wants to preserve life, and they're using that against them to keep themselves alive. But yes, that's where all the money the United States gave them, it went right to the tunnels.
20 years. You said 2005.
2005.
Just amazing to me. Not surprising, because people that are demonically inspired and driven, they have the same values, and they don't operate by the same standards as you and I and most sensible human beings with somewhat of a value for life. Brandon, before we run out of time, what do you want to share? What's your heart when you were just there? What was different maybe about this recent trip to you?
Well, one of the things that we're noticing in every trip that we take, and again, we're sending teams and whatnot, the hearts of the Israelis are opening up. God uses certain things to break us, right? And what we're seeing is this perpetual war that's going on, and it seems like there's no end. Yes, it's breaking them down mentally and emotionally and physically, and a lot of things are happening, but it's also opening them up spiritually. And that's the positive takeaway from all of this, and the fact that we're having conversations with these Israelis, David, that no Gentile would ever have. They're asking us, why are you different than the other Christians? Because the other Christians want to convert us and divorce ourselves from our Judaism. And we're telling them, you don't need to do that. You remain Jewish, and you become a completed Jew if you accept Yeshua. And we tell them about even the end times. I remember riding along in one of their vehicles that Olivier Melnick's organization bought them. It's kind of like a four-wheeler thing. And we were riding in the Valley of Armageddon, and the soldier that I was riding with, I said, "Do you see that hill up there?" And he goes, "Yeah." I go, "That's where Elijah battled the prophets of Baal there," and he didn't even know it. And I said, "Do you know you're in the Valley of Armageddon?" He didn't even know that, and I got to tell him about the Battle of Armageddon right there in the valley. And so what we find out is a lot of the secular Jewish people don't even know their biblical history. And so we're having those conversations and bringing in prophecy, bringing in, I guess we're building bridges that other Christians in the past ruined, if I could say that, because they have had it with the anti-Semitism from Christians. They've had it. So we're showing them something different, David, and God's using it to open their heart. So yeah, that's the positive thing that's coming out of it.
So do you see this, and let's come back over here to the States now, because we've had such an issue with anti-Semitism and media propaganda. Here's the perfect storm almost. Do you see part of the problem in the West, at least in America, as the media, the demonic universities, and you take and the culture? No, the culture is really kind of not up on Israel and biblical teachings, but let's talk about the church and the lack of pulpits openly supporting Israel. And I was just talking with someone that was my age that didn't remember a sermon on Israel, on the importance of it. So is this a perfect storm kind of that set us up for where we're at now as far as our ignorance of not only Israel, but biblical prophecy and other things?
Oh man, you hit the nail on the head. Perfect storm is the greatest word, and then I would add a convergence to it, because as the churches are not doing their job explaining the nature of Israel, and look, a lot of them are replacement theology, unfortunately. So Israel's not on their radar. But here's the other thing I'm concerned about, David. I get the replacement theology types, and they're not going to say anything about Israel, and that's the majority of the church, unfortunately. But here's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about the evangelicals that were supposed to be pro-Israel and haven't made a move since October 7th, have done nothing, have not said anything, have not prayed. Now, I talk to my remnant other pastors in our circle, and you know a lot of them, you have them on your show. They see the same thing. What happened to the pro-Israel churches after October 7th? It's like they went silent. And I don't understand that. And maybe it's because of fear or whatever. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. And we're not getting anything out of the pulpits. Well, here's the thing. You don't say anything. You don't even pray for Israel. I can guarantee you what your congregation is going to think. They're going to either ignore it or think it's not important. And so that's, I hate to say it, but I think God's separating. Even the remnant is showing itself to be separated by the issue of Israel, and of course a lot of these pastors don't have the media savvy to understand the media is lying, and they don't have the right resources a lot of times to get the right news about what's going on in Israel. So they'll hear stories: Israel's starving the Gazans, Israel's doing this, and they're committing genocide. And the pastors don't know how to combat that. And so they either stay silent or either go along with it, which is complicity. They're complicit with it. But you've got to have the right information. They're not starving the Gazans. There's trucks lining up. It was the UN that was actually holding the food back, not Israel. Yep. And so you're not armed with those facts. And so we have pastors that are not armed with the right information, David.
And some of the trucks were being hijacked by Hamas.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and then they try to sell the food to the people. Anyway, what was I going to ask you about pastors? So people, let's just take a couple 100,000 churches in America. Got pastors that are not preaching about Israel. And some of the people in these congregations, are watching these media outlets and hearing the lies. If the pastors are not addressing what's going on and refuting the lies with the truth and teaching proper theology about Israel, I mean, what do you expect? What direction do you expect the church to go then? So we've got a lot of work cut out for us. Share your thoughts in the last couple of minutes here, Brandon.
When you can sit in a church, and these are scenarios that I know. You can sit in a church and be pro-Hamas and sit there and say you love Jesus, and you're at a church where you have that mindset. That tells me that what's coming out of that pulpit is never addressing that issue, because if that person sat in my congregation, at some point early in the service, they would be offended. Okay? But the fact that people can sit there and they're pro-abortion, pro-gay marriage, pro-transgender, and anti-Israel sitting in a church means that pastor's not doing their job. And that is the dominant view that's going on out there. It's not what the pastors are saying. It's what they're not saying, David.
And maybe they also don't see a conflict with something like Queers for Palestine.
Yeah, I know, right? Just the most bizarre thing they're not even addressing. I mean, when you can't even address the transgender movement, there's no way you're going to probably address the Israeli movement. And here's the thing: the pastors are not even equipped to do it. I think there's a lot of laziness going on because, look, I know you, I know myself, and the guys you interview. We have to stay on top of this. It takes a lot of work to stay on top of the news. Yeah. And a lot of them just don't want to put in the time. And so they just put their fingers in the air and they don't want to talk about it.
And we are running out of time. I mean, we don't know. We don't know how much time we have left. Teach us to number our days, Lord, that we might gain hearts of wisdom. And there's a verse, I think it's Romans 13:11, where it just says, "Wake, now's the time for us to wake up." And there's so many other scriptures like that. Redeem the time in Ephesians 4. Brandon, just give us one more minute. I know we run out of time quickly here on whatever you want to take away from supporting Israel, your trip, and just whatever you want to share.
Well, my thing is the trend that I'm seeing with God and how he's using people. It's a grassroots movement, David. It's not a pastor-led movement. And so my admonition to your audience and even my audience, it's going to have to start with you. As far as the average Christian out there, that's the remnant believer, we need you in the fight because your pastor's not in the fight. And so if you can get on board, if you want to partner with us and you say, well, I can't go to Israel, but I can donate. Well, then do that. At least do that. And that will help you get into the fight. And you're going to have to bypass your pastor. I just hate to say that. It's going to have to be a grassroots movement from everybody.
So rockharborchurch.net, friends, if you want to bless the IDF, and also tipofthespearministry.com. Brandon, we'll do another show with you. We so appreciate your time and all that you're doing. Blessings continue, brother. All right.
God bless you.
Thank you. Friends, thank you for sharing the podcast, and please share this one, another important one. God bless you, and as always, keep speaking the truth about things that matter.